Welcome to Partnerships for Profit, the podcast where we bring you inside the world of joint ventures, strategic partnerships, and powerful collaborations. Whether you're looking to expand your network, find new referral partners, or scale your business, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Partnerships for Profit. I'm your host, Ana Del Rio, and this week we're joined by Courtney Schulnick. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Spot on. Yes, perfect.
All right, perfect. So Courtney oh goodness, and now I'm trying to say it again. Schulnick, yes. Esquire, former litigator turned mindfulness teacher and host of the Conscious Corner podcast. Courtney helps lawyers, executives, and high-stress professionals reduce overwhelm, access clarity, and lead with emotional intelligence. Thank you so much for being on the show, Courtney.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great. So let's go ahead and just dive right in. Tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into law and then what made you transition into, what you're doing right now.
Sure. And it's actually, as I have been reflecting on it, I realize it's really been a very beautiful journey and one that has sort of come full circle. So I worked as a litigator for close to 20 years. And throughout the bulk of my career as an attorney, I grappled with stress and anxiety, as do many lawyers and other professionals who work in high stakes professions. So about the midpoint of my career as a litigator, as I was juggling a family, at the time we had 2 sons, we now have 3. I more or less hit a wall in trying to manage the demands of being a mother, a wife, and working in a really challenging industry. So at the suggestion of a therapist who I had been treating with to find ways to better manage stress and anxiety, I enrolled in what is known as the mindfulness-based stress reduction program. It's an 8-week program where you learn both formal mindfulness practices and informal ways to weave mindfulness into your life. And so that experience really allowed me to be at the top of my game. And the following 10 years of my experience working as a litigator, I was able to do the high level thinking that we need to do as attorneys. I had really incredible outcomes in my cases, and I noticed that I was feeling better. But the I'd say the aha moment where I realized that I didn't necessarily want to leave the legal world, but in terms of what was shifting for me internally, I noticed that when I was in front of a room speaking about mindfulness and teaching other attorneys and professionals who work in high stress jobs how to reduce stress and anxiety, how to gain clarity, how to really understand their minds better, that to me felt more fulfilling than being in the front of a courtroom litigating a case. So it really was an organic evolution, and I just really listened to what my heart most desired and what brought me the most joy, the ways that I could continue to serve the legal community, but just sort of from a different angle.
I love that. Now, I feel kind of stupid asking this question, but how can you explain what mindfulness is truly?
Yeah, and that's not a stupid question at all. And I there's a lot out there that claims to be, people maybe teach mindfulness, but maybe aren't necessarily qualified, or the definitions that you hear may not be exactly accurate. So it's a great question. And in a nutshell, mindfulness is present moment awareness. It's our natural, innate capacity to be aware in the present moment. But oftentimes, given the demands of our jobs, given what's happening in the world, it's really easy for us to get caught in worry of what's to come, or maybe getting lost in our endless to-do list. Or we might rehash the past. We might give ourselves a hard time for something we think we could have done better or said differently or acted in another way. And we have a pretty habitual pattern of judging ourselves in the present. We're really, we're very, I mean, you know, as I was getting ready for this, for this podcast and recording, just like sometimes looking in the mirror and seeing something that isn't how you think it should be, or it's not looking right. So we, even from a super, I want to say on the surface level to a more deep level, our intellect, our wealth, we have a way of being highly critical of ourselves. And when we're constantly worrying about what's to come, when we're rehashing the past, or we're judging ourselves right in this moment, we become disconnected from our present moment experience. So mindfulness is our ability, our natural ability to be in the present moment. But with formal mindfulness practice, that's what strengthens our ability to notice when we're checked out, when we're caught in thought or judgment. So that awareness piece is what allows us to choose to be here in the present and to be kind, to be open, to be curious to our experiences.
So the first and foremost is basically the awareness of your headspace, pretty much.
Your heads, yeah. So headspace for sure, because our thoughts can, unlike our bodies, can time travel. We can be pulled to the future and brought into the past, but we also want to be aware of our bodies, our minds, and our emotions. So it's awareness, mind state, mental state, the conditions of our mind, and also noticing how it is in the body, the actual felt sensations that are here within the body.
I love that. I truly love that. And I know that I'll be doing a lot more research into this. Yeah, that's lovely. So, I mean, you talk about the people that you help being, I mean, professionals, you know, in the high stress, you know, work environments. Could you give me like more, and the audience a little bit more idea of who it is that you're helping, like your, yeah.
My audience, like who's the audience?
Yeah, you're like your avatar type, you know, your ideal. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I will say, just given my experience, having worked in the legal sector, especially my familiarity with the stressors inherent to being a litigator, but generally speaking, being a legal professional, a lot of law firms and legal organizations and legal professionals reach out because I can relate to what it is they're going through, what they're experiencing. I've only stepped away from my role as a litigator almost a year ago, but having worked the 20 years or so that I did in the legal profession, I tend to, through word of mouth or referrals, I work a lot in the legal sector. But it's the stress doesn't only exist in the legal sector. Right. People who work in medicine, finance, tech, they have, again, different stressors in terms of the type of work, but just the intensity of the work that they're doing, I can relate to that. And so these skills are transferable, and mindfulness is really helpful for others who are maybe not working as lawyers or in a legal setting, but they're working in some type of high stakes profession. So it's a mixture.
No, I can see that. I mean, as far as some of the pain points and the struggles of the clients that you help, how do you get them out of that frame of mind where they're thinking, oh, I'm just burnt out, you know, this is a weakness, I'm gonna, you know, get over this, I'm and convincing them to be like, look, no, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
We can do this together. You can ask for help, things like that. How do you
Yeah.
do that?
Yeah. Well, first off, to know that they're not alone, that burnout, perhaps now more than ever, is so prevalent, that the speed of life, the amount of work that we're expected to juggle, and really just the state of the world can leave us feeling like we're on overload 24/7. So to normalize that they're not alone. But oftentimes, especially high achievers who are working in really competitive environments, they take on this grind it out mentality and just keep pushing. And they think they should be more resilient. They should be able to deal with burnout and look at it as just like powering through, pushing, pushing, pushing. And with mindfulness, what we can really strengthen is our ability to notice how hard we are on ourselves, to notice how we're relating to the stressors in our lives. And getting back to, I'm really glad that what you said earlier about this awareness piece, where yes, we can notice the mind, but when we're moving towards burnout, we actually get cues through the body. So it's a really helpful way to avoid burnout. Through mindfulness, we can strengthen the mind-body connection, and we can start to notice when we're getting signals from our body that we're exhausted, that our stress levels are through the roof, and that ability to feel into the body, to be aware of those signals and cues that we get through the body, is what allows us to take a more proactive approach to our self-care so that we can avoid reaching burnout. That being said, we have plenty of people. I teach the mindfulness-based stress reduction program at the Center for Mindfulness at Jefferson in Philadelphia. And we have a lot of people who come into the program who have already reached burnout. That was sort of my path, that I had hit that breaking point. And mindfulness can really come in anywhere along the cycle, the stress cycle. But what can be so helpful is to learn ways to become more aware of what's coming up for us, whether it's in mind or body, and that ability to recognize what's here is what allows us to take better care of ourselves.
Right. Right. How would one identify that they're actually experiencing like the burnout that you're
Yeah.
experiencing?
So there are a number of different signals or sensations that we can get within the body. For one, we can notice the holding within the body. We may be experiencing chronic pain. So the muscles are perpetually tight, whether it's in the face, the jaw, the shoulders. We may notice that we're breathing really rapid and shallow. More often than not, we can have really significant health repercussions if we notice that we're having digestive issues or even reproductive complications. It's the whole gamut that we really, it can it's progressive, where it can be exhaustion, headache, inability to think clearly or to focus. And over time, if it's not attended to, and if we don't find ways to nourish ourselves to calm our nervous systems, then it can really evolve into something even more substantial.
My goodness, it really is physiological.
Yeah.
And I can see that wholeheartedly. Tell me about, give us a story about somebody that you've actually helped and as far as like their transformation.
Yeah. So I was working with a client who is an attorney. When they came to me, they were not sleeping well. They have a family, and when they were in the office, they were feeling bad about not being present for their wife, their children. And then when I'm gonna say he is a male. When he was at home with his family, he wasn't truly present with his family. He was constantly having work find its way to him through his phone, through his laptop. His mind, although physically he was at home, his mind was constantly thinking about what was coming up, whether it was a trial, whether it was a deposition with a difficult attorney, whether it was wondering about whether his client was going to show up for trial. It was all the what ifs and constant, like nonstop doing and needing to be on and connected to his work, that before he knew it, the days, the weeks, the months, the years, they passed, and he wasn't feeling well. The not sleeping, the constantly taking medication for back pain and headaches, and not being able to focus on the key issues at hand. So we worked together, and over time, he was able to notice the ways in which he was actually compounding his stress levels by the things he was telling himself, by getting caught up in the what ifs. And he found ways to create boundaries so that when he was at home with his family, that he could truly be present, that he could take in the goodness that was there. And when he was working on something, whether it was preparing for trial, he was able to notice when maybe he was holding tension in the shoulders, when his breathing was really shallow, when he was maybe holding, not even feeling the body breathing, but taking a few relaxing sighs. So it was really gradual, but over time, he found ways to invite ease in those moments when he noticed agitation, anxiousness, or stress coming on. And then he was able to open more fully to the joy and to the pleasant events in his life. And what was really remarkable is after working together for several months, he went back to his primary doctor, and he had been taking medication for high blood pressure. He was eventually able to come off of his medication and find ways with a regular practice of mindfulness to calm his nervous system, to weave practices that allowed him to take good care of his body, of his mind, and really find more fulfillment in his work and more joy in his overall life.
Well, that's so rewarding for you, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's really rewarding. And when you get to work with one person and you know that you can help, you can be a piece of that transformation, that in and of itself is powerful. And when you get to bring these practices and these tools into larger settings, to teams, to corporations, and you can see the ripple effect in the whole room and between colleagues, it's really powerful. So it's something that continually brings me deep fulfillment and really allows me to continue giving back to not only the legal community, but to many professions where there's just a lot going on, high stress, high stakes.
No, absolutely. That's beautiful. I'm curious about your approach and like how you provide these services. Is it like a one-on-one or a group setting or
Yeah.
both? How does that work?
Yeah, sure. So both. I offer one-on-one if there is an individual who wants, is curious about what mindfulness is and how can this possibly support me in my work, in my life, and doesn't feel comfortable in the group setting, I do work one-on-one with individuals. I also work in groups. So one of the teams that I'm working with, it's not a law firm, it's a company where they have in-house counsel. And once a week, all the programs are tailored for the specific company, but they wanted to meet once a week for 6 consecutive weeks for an introductory type of mindfulness program. So we can do a hybrid, or it could be in person or all virtual. In this particular situation, it was a hybrid format. So there were times where I would be in person in the office, and we would meet once a week for an hour. We designed it in a way so that it was woven into the workday, so that it was an easy lift. People could come into the office. They could join virtually if they worked from at home, and they could learn mindfulness formal practices and informal practices over a span of 6 weeks. So I do both, and it really depends on from a time perspective, what an individual, what kind of availability that person or those people have, and then from the perspective of a company or a corporation, how they feel they can best support their teams.
That's great. Okay. Thank you so much for sharing that portion. Do me a favor and let everybody know where they can actually find you and get help from you.
Sure. So I have a website. It's just Courtney Schulnick mindfulness.com. And if you visit the site, you can get a whole lot of resources, anything from short guided meditation practices, audio and visual. You can also see a variety of newsletters and articles where you can learn more about mindfulness and the benefits of mindfulness. There's also, on the homepage, there is a complimentary mindfulness e-workbook. It has a formal guided practice. It has some informal ways. We call them on-the-spot practices. So these small ways that you can, in the midst of, if you're noticing some anxiety coming over you or you're becoming reactive, in that moment, you can use these tools to incline you in the direction of more ease. So you can grab your free mindfulness e-workbook on the website. And then my email is similar. It's just Courtney Schulnick mindfulness@gmail.com. And then lastly, I'm really active on LinkedIn. I post regularly, daily, if not at least several times a week. And the newsletter that I share on my website, I publish that on LinkedIn and do LinkedIn Live. So a lot of offerings, both through the website and through LinkedIn.
Lovely. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Courtney, for being on the show. And I hope that everybody has gotten some great information and are able to connect with you when they are really seeking, that assistance, that little bit of help. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Anna, for having me. I really enjoyed our time together.
It was absolutely my pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Partnerships for Profit. We hope you've gained valuable insights on how to form profitable partnerships and take your business to the next level. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. Got a partnership story to share or someone you'd like to see featured on the show? Reach out to us. Until next time, keep building those partnerships for profit.